Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Circle Up and Get Real, where we talk about things that matter with people who matter. And Jake, I've been wanting you on my podcast for a long, long time. So I'm so grateful that we found a time that we could connect. This is Jake Luehrs, who I met, oh my goodness, Jake, in 2011, maybe, when I was a team leader.
Dates are
I
not
know.
my thing, but that's probably about right. Yeah.
I know. I
Yeah.
was a team leader for Keller Williams in Fargo, and Jake was in the Minneapolis area as a team leader as well. And since then, Jake's really I've been watching your journey, Jake, and I'll just read you a little bit about Jake's journey. He is a highly experienced real estate professional with more than 24 years of industry experience. And you're only 25, Jake, so I don't know how that works. But for the past 15 years, Jake has been a driving force in the leadership side of building, acquiring, and growing brokerages. So there's the doing of real estate, and then there's the being of real estate. And it sounds like you've kind of moved in more into that lane. His passion for developing others, growing himself, and helping businesses thrive is evident in everything he does. And I definitely see that, Jake, and have since I first met you. So welcome.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, my pleasure. Well, Jake, it's so important these days, and maybe it has been forever, that people step into what makes them the best version of them. And I see that as leadership. I think you see that as leadership, accountability, some of those soft skills, maybe touchy-feely skills that are really hard to measure.
Yeah.
So can you just tell me how you made this transition from day-to-day sales into now owning two or being an operating partner into market centers and then doing your work?
Yeah, I think I got something that I think is important to start with is this idea of leadership. I think it's been morphed and it will continue to morph, I think. But I don't look at the first component of leadership as what I think is generally assumed about leadership. And what I mean by that is typically we think about leadership in terms of other people.
Yeah.
And I think that has gotten us to a very dangerous place. And I say dangerous very intentionally because what I've learned is one of two things can happen is if all of our focus is on just leading other people and not leading ourselves, one of two things shows up. One, we lead without any sort of foundational integrity, meaning, am I doing what I suggest others to do? And the second is being successful at leading others and not leading ourselves can lead, it leads to a very dark and inauthentic place.
Hmm.
And so fundamentally, I think how I've gotten to where I am now and why I'm convicted around my direction is until we fundamentally, I'm not even going to suggest master
Yeah.
leading ourselves, but fundamentally make it a priority day to day. Our impact and our relationships will suffer.
Yeah.
And so that's
That's
just a really important bridge that I'm trying to bring together is once we take really some personal I'm not, accountability and responsibility feel heavy these days, and
Mhm.
it's irritating because it's the very freedom that we're seeking. Like if once we take responsibility and ownership of how we show up and what we do, it actually gives us what we're seeking. We're just trying to reverse engineer it in a different way that doesn't actually give us what we want.
Yeah. I have recently become aware of Bob Chapman's work. Bob Chapman was the CEO of Barry Waymiller. We can talk about that at some point, but he calls it um, responsible freedom. So it's what you just said. It's responsible freedom. If you want the freedom to do the things that you want to do as part of your organization, then you're also going to have to take the responsibility that comes with that. And so often people want the freedom without the responsibility. And that's what I hear you saying.
I mean, if you really think about it, people that don't have or take a lot of responsibility, what do they actually influence or like what are they doing?
Hmm.
And I think of children. Children don't have a lot of responsibility. And the reality is, and people have argued with me, and it's fine, but the reality is a 6-year-old doesn't have a lot of freedom. They behave in a way they have a lot of freedom, but it's because they don't know how to behave. But the truth is they don't have a lot of freedom. They don't get to choose a lot of things in their lives. And I think of adults that don't take responsibility. They're leaving everything up to everybody else and to circumstance. And yet, and yet what happens is they get upset when things don't line up with how they want them to be. And this is where it's like reverse engineered. It's like, would you rather control it on the back end when somebody else does something, or would you prefer to take some proactive responsibility
Mhm.
in the direction that you want to go and take the accountability on to make yourself clear, better, uh, behave appropriately, emotional regulation. Like this idea that, and I wrote a post this morning. It's like telling people what to do doesn't change what they do. Blaming people for things doesn't require them to take responsibility. But this has become our form of communication,
Right.
unfortunately, is I laugh because when somebody tells me to settle down and I'm upset, that's the last thing I do is settle down.
Ah, mm,
And so telling people what to do, it's better to say what questions would prompt them to self-reflect on what state they're in.
mm.
Far more about leadership than telling people what to do.
So I'm glad you said this. If you don't mind, Jake, I would either you or I would love to read what you wrote this morning because I printed it out. It's exactly where I am in my world, in my life. This is why it keeps coming up for me personally, for Jody. So this is what Jake wrote this morning. Telling doesn't change people. Blaming others doesn't suddenly get them to take responsibility. Anger toward others doesn't get them to calm down, which is what you just said. Convincing others that we're right, even if we are, doesn't get them to change their mind. And yet, this seems to be the mode of communication we use to get our point across. The very way we are communicating produces the exact opposite outcome we're seeking. This is not Jody talking. This is Jake talking. I'm just using my voice because I could say the same thing, Jake. We sabotage any common threads we hold when we bring this type of energy to conversations, which is far more than what the news or social media promotes. Keyboard warriors won't change the world for the better. They will create more noise. It's not that they are wrong, it's just not effective. But it's easy. So we all just assume that sharing our morality and righteousness with others will change them. It won't. It likely emboldens them. This isn't about who's right. This is about what is most effective. All of us want to be understood. It's a human need. And yet we're not listening to each other. We have the opportunity to listen face to face, not behind the screen. We have far more in common than what the world is showing us. And that is what I will lean on. And I'll ask you to join me. I could have said that myself, Jake. And this is what Jake said this morning. And it was brilliant.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I want to know how you're seeing that show up in your world these days. By the way, Jake lives in the Minneapolis area. Acknowledging what's going on in Minneapolis, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about that on February 3rd, 2026.
Yep. Yep.
What are you noticing?
It's tough. It's a tough thing. There's a lot of noise and I think there's a lot of very poor leadership. And I don't need to make this a political thing. The
Right.
reality is if we ultimately all lead ourselves in a more appropriate way, I think we can come to a common ground.
Mhm.
But volume doesn't change outcomes, in my opinion.
Volume in uh,
Volume
how
and
loud
noise,
things
like
are.
if
Yeah,
you want to yell,
yeah,
that doesn't, we're not
yeah.
changing anything.
Right.
And the reality, here's I'm going to kind of leave it at this is we've gotten to a place where everything has to be, the pendulum has to be pegged out up
Mm,
here, or the pendulum has to be pegged out here.
mm,
And the truth is, real wisdom is being able to hold competing views with truth in both of them.
right.
Because I think we're in that space right now. There's a lot of truth in multiple sides, and
Mm,
people that are so far one way, I can feel it. They already look at me like, well, you're already on that side. It's like, no,
mm,
don't get it twisted. Now you're labeling, which doesn't help. And I see frustration on both sides. And I think the responsibility goes far beyond any political view that we have. It goes truly into the extreme people on both sides are controlling the narrative, not the majority that's in the middle that most of us agree we don't want criminals on the street. How it's being done is is completely wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think both things can be in the same breath, but there's too much emotion that's wrapped up in it that it doesn't allow us to have that conversation.
So true. It's really difficult. I mean, going back to your 6-year-old, it's really difficult to reason with someone who's emotional. Reasoning with a 6-year-old is really difficult because 6-year-olds haven't yet developed those reasoning skills.
That's also the
And
same time where we don't just shut it down because they're emotional
right,
either.
right.
I think there's something to be like, hey, we can have an emotional conversation, and what are we striving towards? And if we
Hmm.
find intent behind every conversation, I think most of us will come to terms on a lot of things, not everything.
Hmm.
I don't want everybody to be on the same page,
Right.
but I think genuinely people are good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's algorithms that support everything but that.
That's not sexy. That's not
It's
exciting.
not
We don't
exciting.
buy
No.
it.
Yep.
We want
It's,
the, I
we're
guess.
kind of puppets with social
Yeah.
media because we're assuming what's being posted and what we're looking at is rhythmically built for our brains to actually be more addicted to it. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
I'm very clear on what I look at because I will intentionally click on puppy photos
To get more
or,
puppy
or
photos.
jokes.
Right.
Because here's the thing, it's not social media, it's what we're clicking on and watching. And so if you want a different feed, start taking a different action. And
Hmm.
I don't need to see the news 24/7 because a lot of it's just not true.
Right, right, right. So, oh, so much. That's a whole other conversation
Yep,
about
totally agree.
sensationalism and so and by the way, we could continue to talk about that forever, Jake. I would look forward to having more conversations like this because here's what I hope we're modeling, Jake, is an opportunity to come together in a spirit of harmony so the best of each of us can come into the conversation. We didn't plan this. I don't have questions I ask you in advance because this podcast is all about being real.
Yep,
And to me, being real is having the opportunity to hear and hold space for each of us to bring our best selves. And I think that's what you're talking about with your leadership, self leadership.
100%. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we've put blame everywhere outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And some people, if that causes people to get upset, I think they need to look in the mirror because it
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't bother you if you're taking real ownership of making yourself better. Like
Yeah.
it shouldn't bother you.
Yeah.
And if it does, it's probably because you feel attacked about something. That's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
But the first place to go, I keep saying less fingers, more thumbs. Like if we
Mm-hmm.
really start to say, okay, where's my place in this? It gives us a little pause.
Right.
And I just think a lot of us are avoiding things that are keeping us in a really bad space. Trauma
Yeah.
from our childhood,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
somebody, wronging us, and we're unconsciously holding it.
Right. Right. Unconsciously. Very, yes. Please tell us how you got here, Jake. What was your journey to getting here? Where were you raised? What were you interested in as a kid? Tell us about you.
Was raised in Rogers, Minnesota.
Okay.
So it's about, I don't know, 45 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes from Minneapolis. Um, Normal childhood. I had some things show up I'm happy to get into. Um, I went to college in southern Minnesota for 4.5 years and jumped into real estate while I was in college.
Okay. Did
Uh,
you play sports anywhere?
Not in college. In high school, I played baseball.
Baseball.
But outside of that, I was too small, too skinny, had a high pitched voice until 11th grade. So you name it. I actually am somewhat grateful because my son asked me, "Gosh, Dad, I hope my voice lowers and I grow faster than you did." And I said, "You know what? Being that small and that skinny required me to develop
Mm.
some communication skills because I had to be thoughtful,
Ah.
knowing that I'm kind of the small guy here." And
Mm-hmm.
so I think every every quote unquote weakness that I think we have, if we look at it through a really good frame will be a strength that you can develop that others won't be able to.
Right. Because it's yours.
Because it's yours and your perspective is different. If
Yeah.
I was big and intimidating, there's no need for me to use communication because
Mm,
I'm actually not afraid.
mm,
And afraid is the wrong term, but if I'm going to be smart to somebody, I need to make sure I'm smart in a way that they actually know I'm just joking.
mm,
The
mm,
sarcasm, like,
mm-hmm,
that's fun for me. And
mm-hmm.
and I've felt myself kind of get blanketed now because I'm a little afraid of things getting taken out of context. I don't say anything wild, but people are just a little bit
Yeah.
more on edge.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I sold real estate for 11 years and I knew it wasn't for me.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is I enjoyed the leadership side of things and I had really enjoyed weaving the business conversations into the development of people conversation.
Mhm, mhm.
Because
Yeah.
I think business is actually a vehicle that can expose things to show us where we can grow.
Yeah.
And so, in I took over a Remax office, a small office in Rogers for 5 years. I ran it while I sold, and then I moved into the team leader role with KW. And brokerage is, I love what I'm building with KW right now, but it's not a brokerage thing to me. It's a people thing at the local
Mhm,
level.
mhm,
It's not a national thing. We have brand, which I think is great, but again, I think this is more about what do I want to craft in the businesses that I run.
mhm.
And I'm a firm believer that people shouldn't build the business. I think we should build people and then naturally and organically those people in our ecosystem naturally allow the business to develop.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah. I
it's a reversed way to look at it though, because it does take more time and people are super confused when you talk about it when they're driven by metrics.
Right, right. Oh, so true. That's why I felt like I'm so grateful now that I fell into Keller Williams because I was not from real estate. I had a coaching business. I had no experience in real estate. And the 3 years I got to spend in that organization were exactly as you've described. The people I got to meet, the way that I saw it wasn't from a real estate lens. And when I had to be, I was going to say forced, strongly suggested that I get my real estate license in that process. I, like you, that wasn't my driver. It wasn't about the details of real estate. It was about the opportunity with people. And I think Keller does a super great job of that. Gary Keller is brilliant
I
at
agree.
building.
I agree. Yeah, and so and if you look at the journey, gosh, there's so much I've learned over the past year and a half
Yeah.
that people from the outside looking in would want to say sorry to me for what I had to endure. And I think it's the greatest blessing that I could have had. And I think we could use more of that in life. Like it's a lot of redirection. So, I became a team leader, built a big office. We're in the top 15 of the country in profitability of 850 some offices. So we built something very special. And I moved into a GM role where I oversaw 5 market centers and all the leadership teams, 850 agents, and then eventually into the franchise owner for each one of those. And it all came crumbling down because I also took the regional director role at the same time. And what I learned partially in that process was sometimes organically talented people are presented with opportunities that aren't right for them. But it seems like the next right step. It's like getting a promotion at your job. It's like just because you can get the promotion, do you want it? And in 20 end of, the third quarter of 2024, everything came to a screeching halt. And unbeknownst, like I didn't know, like it was just coming. So I quit drinking in the middle of 24, and then I've had depression, but I had some suicidal ideation in October. Was also going through a divorce. And I always say this because people say I'm sorry, but the beautiful relationship that I have with Steph at this point people are super confused by.
Mhm.
And and our goal was to make sure that we maintained a really healthy relationship, not only for the kids, but for us. We always say it's about the kids, but it's really healing for you to have a relationship like that with somebody when you can both still care for each other and it's just in a different capacity.
Mhm.
But I actually went to, I was running multiple market centers and I went to a place for depression and trauma for
Mhm.
21 days.
Mhm.
And I'll speak to a lot of high performing people because there's a lot of really high performing people right now that are miserable.
Yep.
Their ego is too wrapped up in what if I went backwards? What if I quit? What would people think? And how am I going to be judged? I don't want to let people down. All of this stuff is outside of us.
Mhm.
But it's quite amazing to me how the leadership teams and investors supported 100%. They didn't know everything I was going through, but 100%. They said, you got to do that. And the team stepped up. I was gone
Mhm.
for 21 days, didn't do anything. But that was the beginning of everything breaking open.
Mhm.
There's trauma from my
Yeah.
childhood that I didn't know was still there, but was
Mhm.
still significantly there.
Mhm.
Um, and so that is where I'm convinced that I'm not alone.
Mhm.
I know there's a lot of people going through things and they're just putting frosting on a dirt cake. Like I'm well aware. I don't judge them because I did it for 2 decades. When I
Mhm.
look back, I know exactly what I was doing. I was trying to achieve all this external stuff in hopes that it fills the void or whatever's happening. And
Right.
so the only way is through. And until people get to that place and we're all on a different timeline, they will suffer in perpetuity when they try to go around.
Mhm.
They'll have happy moments, but it won't be the default for them.
Right. You probably knew the words of this. We learned this. We learned these words at Keller. We learned about leadership. We learned the externals, and it was all true. It was all there. But like you're saying, you can't put the frosting on the dirt cake, I think you said. And until it sounds to me like until you had the breakdown, you couldn't have a breakthrough that is authentic and real.
No, there's no question that we change when the pain exceeds the
Mm,
discomfort of changing.
mhm. Yeah.
But I was just tired. I
Mm,
was, and that suicidal thought scared the shit out of me.
yeah. That was the first time you had that?
That acute and
Mm,
that detailed, yes. Had I
mm,
thought it was more of, I think about it in the past, like it would just maybe be easier if I wasn't here. But when it turned that corner, I always made the commitment that if it went that way, that I would say something.
mhm.
And so I did. And it's really interesting that behind closed doors, people will come up to me and tell me how much they're struggling. But you look on social media and it looks like everything's great.
Mhm.
And that is you're selling your soul at that point, which I get it's scary, but you're not going to bullshit me. Like I know I can see it with people. Once you've been someplace, you can see it in people.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I almost wish I couldn't see it. I mean,
Now?
I wish I couldn't see it in people at sometimes now because it's hard.
Mhm.
Like it's hard to observe when somebody is just giving you a word salad and you know deep down they're just asking for help, but they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. Do you have, are you developing the tools to be able to know what to do with that now? Is that
Oh
something, I
yeah.
mean, this is
There's
what your
no,
work is?
I don't fear the darkest emotions in the world. I don't
Mhm.
fear them anymore.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I think there's something to be said about this place I went to. They said, no matter what you feel, you're safe. There is whatever emotion you feel, just feel it. You're safe. And the brain is there to protect you,
Mhm.
but that is also your sabotaging mechanism for addressing the very things that are holding you back or causing you to show up a certain way.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I just think that once people have the courage to face it, it's where freedom shows up. Because now I can be in the darkest moments, and there's this really, you're going to think I'm a little bit crazy, but go for it. There's this really interesting feeling that I have is like I'm really experiencing the whole spectrum of life, every emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And why is sadness bad? And why is happiness good? What causes it to be that way? But we label it as something's wrong. But I think it's a natural process of who we're actually like, we're human. And so I saw this reel one time, and whatever you believe, it's like if God came to you and said, "You know what, Jody, I have this really cool opportunity for you. I don't know if it's going to be for you, but if I could send you to a place for a very, very short period of time, and you are going to experience joy and happiness like you could never imagine, and you're also going to experience some really significant pain and anxiety. You want to go?"
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, yeah, I'd want to go.
Wow.
What an experience.
Mm-hmm.
But we show up in life thinking, if I'm not happy, something's wrong. But it's not.
Right.
It's,
Have you
it,
seen Inside Out,
I have.
the Disney
Yeah.
movie?
Yeah.
Or whatever, Pixar, I guess it is. I have the characters on my credenza over here because I love, I don't want to give it away for anybody who hasn't seen it. The first one, I love the way joy and sadness work together.
Mhm.
And they go do this adventure and they come back, and the only way they can actually get through the adventure is to work together instead of against each other.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing you say is exactly that. The whole spectrum, the colors, the use whatever 360-degree brightness scale. I mean, whatever it might be, you can't have one without the other. It sounds like you're saying.
I don't
Truly.
I don't know how.
Right. Okay.
Because I think we're built for all the emotions. And I don't think I need reasons anymore to feel a
Mhm.
certain way. And this is weird. And I will say I'm going to talk to young men. They don't have a lot of role models that they actually see
Yeah.
unless they have a great father or great close. But everything they look at online is this manly bravado that's just full of shit because these
Right.
people are miserable.
Right.
Most of them
Right.
are. And and is that a general statement? I'll make the general statement, but I've just talked to enough highly successful people that they're not they're not all fulfilled. They're chasing something. And we look at motivation as like a very positive thing. I'm more curious what is causing your motivation to be,
Mhm.
because if it's the fear of not being liked, I think that's a very dangerous motivation.
Right.
Now, what you're seeing here, I don't care at this point what I say on here as long as it's my truth. And if people like, I already know if there's males listening to this, a lot of them will shut down. They'll be like,
Mm.
that's not for me. And it's because we've been programmed. It's
Yeah.
not because it's true.
Right.
But here's the thing. If I have a bad day, okay, like I just process it and I don't try to figure it out. I listen, but I'm not trying to pinpoint it because that's actually a form of resistance that hasn't worked for me because I've never
Mhm.
actually been able to identify it and tell the answer. It's just like, oh, that's why I'm upset. And sometimes that takes days.
Yeah.
And Jody, I don't know if I've shared this, but I've ranked my day from 2 to -2 over the past, this is my 6th year. I
Mm.
rank every day. And that's what caused me to quit drinking because I noticed how often I was drinking and it was visual. I looked at it and I noticed which days were lower ranking, which typically followed the drinking days. Like shocking, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I needed a visual thing. Like I can't hide from the truth that is looking at me every day. In 2022, 55%, no, 2021, 55% of the days I drank.
Oh,
It's more than every other day.
yeah.
And I say that now without embarrassment, but if you would ask me 3 years ago, I'd be like, I'm not telling anybody that.
Sure. Of course. Of
That's
course. Yeah.
that's that's awful. Like,
Right.
what am I doing when I say this is where there was a disconnect between what people saw
Mm.
and how I felt? Here's the thing: I
Mhm.
showed up every day doing my very best to be there for other people, be the solid person. But when I get home, I'm crumbling and judging myself for not being, inauthenticity is trying to manage too many versions of yourself. Like
Yeah.
that's what shows up.
Have you ever heard the book What Happened to You by Oprah and Bruce Perry?
I've heard of it. It was that one, and there's another one that I think sounds similar, but it's not your fault.
Yeah. Very similar.
Yeah.
When I read What Happened to You, it opened up so many things for me. I'm sure I do have my own. We all have our own trauma. I don't have anything that I can pinpoint that was really significant. I've done a lot of personal development work, the Landmark Forum, the whole Landmark curriculum. Um, and that gave me so much awareness for other people's misery, like you're describing.
Yeah.
What I learned from that book, Oprah, it's just so heart-wrenching. I would listen to it on Audible, and she would take parts of the interviews she had done with young kids, and they would tell about their own trauma as little kids. And I didn't experience that, so I'm empathetic enough that that really affected me. Bruce Perry, who is her co-author, is from Bismarck, North Dakota. I'm from Fargo. And he had some trauma in his own life that you can look up on there are Netflix about his wife who was killed by Son of Sam. I mean, there's a whole lot going on here with these two individuals. And I reached out to him and said, I'm from Fargo. I know people who graduated from high school with you. To me, I tell you all that because it makes it real for me. It's not just somebody I'm reading a book about.
Right.
It's like a human being who I know. Like with you, I know you. I'm not, we've met in person. We've been in the same places. For some reason, it makes it more real when I know a human person, not just reading a post on social media or reading a book. And I think your point about wanting to be face to face with people, being with people, not wanting to travel so much, being in your community, I get that in energetic ways I can't even really articulate.
It oftentimes becomes a performance
Mm.
when we're not able to just set down the armor.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is the interesting thing. People get super confused by my approach because I actually don't have a lot of I I don't have much to offer you if you're not the quote unquote issue. Meaning if you're not willing to look inward, we're going to disagree on a lot of things. And I'm not going to make you right or wrong because it's not my place. But I've just studied far too many people that the most peace comes from understanding yourself enough to give yourself the space and to label things appropriately versus judge yourself unconsciously. And so there's just this dance of I'm very firm on you better own your own shit. And
Mhm.
if you don't want to, you can point the finger all day, but nothing in your world is going to change. And so
Yeah.
it's just a lot of the training that I bring across the country is really based on I bring some really brutally honest questions that I created while I was in the dark moments. And when you write, you don't articulate logically the answer, but when you write the question, you know the answer before you finish.
Yeah.
And so there's really two questions that I'll leave for your listeners that if it hits you, then there's something there. But the first one is what problems in your world are you complaining about that you're acting like a victim to, but you created them?
Mm-hmm.
So what problems are you creating that you're behaving that you're a victim to? And the second one is if you have a decision to make in your life, whether it's career, whether it's relationships, marriage, kids stuff, whatever it is, if you were to just remove ego and fear from that process, what decision would you make?
Mm.
And 9 times out of 10, what you're going to notice is I need to end this relationship. I need to apologize. Like there's before you mentally gymnastics your way out of it, listen to the truth that comes. I think the truth comes here. not
Hmm.
here.
Hmm. Yeah.
This one's for comfort, this one's for truth. And
For those of you listening, Jake's pointing to his head and he's saying the truth doesn't come from the head, it comes from the heart.
now logically we can massage it to all sound good, but I'm so far past words at this point, which people think is it can be harsh. It's just like you're just saying a bunch of words though. Like I could ask you a lot of questions and you would be thoroughly confused around where you stand and what you say you're convicted about.
Mm,
And that's not to prove a point, it's just to say it's what's comfortable. And I get that because I still do it. But that's actually at that point when it was 4 a.m. in January of 24 is I asked that question, and that's the very moment that I knew I need to let go of 3 market centers.
wow. Wow. So sometimes when you ask, when you get to that point, it sounds like 4 a.m. in January of 2024, and you're ready to, maybe you don't even feel like you're ready to face the real truth, but the truth comes to you. And then what I hear you saying is at that point, you have a decision to make.
I wasn't ready to make it,
Hmm.
but fundamentally, I knew it was what I had to do. Like I had to. You fear losing money, you fear you fear what people are going to think.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the stories that come out of it when you say, I'm stepping down from these three and I'm going to hold on to these two.
Mhm.
The stories are anywhere from what's wrong with Jake? Is he sick? To did he get fired? Like
Mhm.
it ranges, and the reality is it just didn't matter.
Mhm.
And I didn't give a reason for it besides I can't continue to do it this way.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it forces this term in my head. It's like you've overcome 100% of the challenges that you've faced in your 46 years. The next one's not going to be any different.
Mhm.
And so I'm not prepared or willing to live muted. I'm far more interested in living like this. Like I want to feel the extreme high.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
willing to experience the darkest moments. Because when I ranked my days, what I learned is the more zeros I had, the more blah I was.
Mhm.
And in 2024, which is by far the hardest year of my life, I actually had far more twos than I ever had, and I had far more negative twos than I ever had.
Mhm.
And I felt alive.
Yeah.
So it's like as soon as I don't judge the bad days, just knowing that they're going to be, I don't know anybody that hasn't had significant trouble, struggles,
Yeah.
emotional challenges. Like I don't know anybody. So it seems to me if I just look at the history of life that suffering is part of life,
Right.
right?
Right.
And there's
Right.
plenty of literature on that. I'm not going to get religious about it, but there's plenty of literature
Mhm.
that supports like suffering isn't wrong. Suffering
Mhm.
is part of the experience.
Mhm. Right. So this 21 days, was it like I'm done 21 days, everything seems different and I'm good to go?
We have to realize that there's decades of patterns that we've programmed ourselves without even realizing that's how we're thinking. But there was a release there. It's interesting. I went there thinking I was going to be trying to process my divorce, and
Mhm.
that was not the first thing that came up. It was stuff from my childhood
Yeah.
that I didn't even know was there.
Right.
But it feels weird to say it on here, but to cry like that
Mhm.
feels like you're not safe, plain and
Mhm.
simple. And I won't use the word on here, but there was a period of 3 days where I could not put it back. It was coming out.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I went to the owner and I said, this is not, this isn't working, man. And he's like, tell me what's going on here. I was like, I can't stop. Like this just keeps, it's just like this deep pain. It's like, that's awesome, dude. And I
Wow.
remember looking at him, I said, F you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he laughed a little bit. I was like, this is not what I was prepared for. And he said,
Right.
you can't be, you wouldn't have came if you were thinking this is
Mm-hmm.
what it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the path through. And
Right.
so, and that comparison of trauma is not helpful to anybody because everybody's experience is their own.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
comparing it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't say one's worse than the other. It's it's processing it to make it on the other side.
Yeah.
And the only thing that it really has changed, Jody, is I just don't, when I feel it, I find I still compartmentalize. I can't just walk around and be like, I'm going to feel what I'm going to feel whenever I want to
Mm-hmm.
feel it. I'm not going to do that. But I'll find some space to write and to just feel it and allow it to pass through.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't typically last long. Is it easy? No, but it's far more enjoyable when I'm like, you can feel my energy when I'm authentic. You can feel it now.
Yeah.
Before it
Yeah.
was a performance.
Right. 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 Well, and boy, the people in the world, the humans who live on this planet are really, really good performers because they've practiced it for so long. You get better at what you do over and over again, right?
Yep.
We're such good performers.
Yep. And I don't need everybody to, the last thing I want is for people to feel sorry for me because this has been a gift.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those big three things that showed up, I think was God's way of grabbing me and saying, dude, until you realize it's bigger than you, I'm going to keep bringing the pain.
Wow.
And I think that's a really special thing. I think the greatest people, the most thoughtful, compassionate, hardworking people are the ones that have been broken down by life and they've sat in it where they say this is bigger than me
Mm-hmm.
and I need some help.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly, and I hate to say this, but particularly men,
Mm-hmm.
because there's not a safe place in society. And this isn't the poor men stuff. Don't give me that garbage, but
Yeah, no, no, I get that.
there's not a safe place for men to let it out because now it's a sense of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the men that are willing to do it are far stronger than the ones that don't.
100%. 100%. Um, are you working exclusively with men now, or do you have a men's group, or do you have anything that you're doing? Okay, with anybody.
I'm allowing this to, like, last year I went to 14 different businesses to speak, and that was all organic. I didn't set out for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm allowing the path to show up as I do the work and
Mm-hmm.
to find the right people that see the message and have the people in their world that want it to be brought to them.
So it's called Lead Yourself First, Quit Holding Yourself Back. And Jake says, I'm just going to read a little bit from his promotional information. We know our businesses will never exceed our own level of self-leadership. Do we know that, Jake? Do we know that? Do people know that?
No, and I'll say this, let's not confuse it. You can still be very successful.
Yeah.
You can still go make a lot of money. You can get all the titles and you can get the status. The self leadership component is about alignment. Like I
Yeah.
made far more money and had far more titles than I ever thought I had, and yet I was miserable.
Mhm.
So there's this. Let's not confuse results with building a meaningful path in business for yourself.
Right. 100%. And here's the thing that where faith and trust come in. If you do the work you're describing, Jake, well, I can't guarantee anything, but I'm betting that abundance shows up in different ways and a more well-rounded life and all those things that we thought we had when I say we, I don't have this experience, but what I'm hearing you say, everything you thought you had when you were trying to avoid the things that make you human and bring you into your own authenticity, probably are waiting for you in a different way. It could be money, it could be status, it could be all those things that you're describing. And it sounds to me like that authenticity piece, that light that comes from your eyes instead of on you, can really light the path in a different way, it sounds like.
But yeah, I really like the way you said that. That's why I think we actually can build something much more significant when we're fully being the version of ourselves because our energy is more enduring. Our message is more consistent. It doesn't go with the waves of society.
Yeah.
And the best thing is I tell people like I'm very me, and I like me.
Mhm.
I didn't used to like me.
Mm.
And there's something to be said like, look, if I say no, it doesn't mean I don't like you. It just means no. That's all it means. And so I'm not going to soften my communication because you're triggered by my honesty.
Right, right.
That isn't my responsibility. And so if I have to package how I communicate with you because you don't know that my heart is full of compassion and care, I don't want you in my world because
Mm.
everything is going to turn around to be like, yeah, but you said this. It's like, yeah, but it's true.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
just
yeah.
didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Mm-hmm.
because you don't like it doesn't make it my problem.
Yeah. Yeah. The light shining through your eyes, if it blinds somebody else, that's not your responsibility. You can give them sunglasses because it's not about dimming your
Or
light so others don't
they
feel.
can put on their own sunglasses. Like
Yeah.
that's not my responsibility either. Like if we all we it's very easy, Jody, for us to look at other people and say that person's room is so dirty. Look at that room. And yet if we turned around for a second and looked at our own room, um, we probably wouldn't say a whole lot. But we don't
Mm,
want to turn around.
that's right.
And so I just think there's something to be said about owning what isn't pretty in our world for whatever it is without judging it, and then just becoming the best version of ourselves through it.
Right. So just to continue on your promotional material, skills are not our biggest issue. It's a lack of effective self-leadership. Whether it's with your clients, teams, communities, or beyond, leadership is the fundamental tool to achieve future growth in action. So the distinction I hope you're hearing, listeners, between maybe other leadership programs you've seen or heard or looked at, and again, we're not judging. We're just saying there could be an external element to some. Jake's is completely internal. It sounds like Jake, right? It's lead
Oh, like
yourself first.
don't get me wrong. I love hearing the impact that I make.
Mhm.
And this is going to sound terrible, but if I follow the praise, I'm also going to take the blame. And so I'm very like I want to be thoughtful and gracious for the kind words, but I also for anybody that disagrees with me, I want to carry it with the same weight of like it doesn't matter. And I'm so far from saying it doesn't matter. Like I'm still highly influenced from negative criticism.
Sure.
Um, but I know that if I'm counting on the accolades and the attaboys, then the criticism will crush me.
Got it. Yes, yes, yes. So I would say blame, maybe there's no place for blame in any of this. You don't even need to own blame. We can take responsibility, which blame has a different, and shame, they have different energies around them. They feel a lot heavier. So take responsibility for what's yours and let fly off your back what's not yours to own. And I think that will allow people to step into the light without getting blinded.
I think that's perfectly said. Yeah, I don't think it doesn't need to go beyond that. It's really like just allow people to be what they are
Mhm.
and be a sounding board for them if they need one,
Mhm.
but don't be a garbage dumpster for them.
That's good.
Meaning, if you're the person everybody drops their shit on, you're the
Mhm.
garbage dump.
Mm, that's really good.
And I'm here. I'm here to listen, but guess what? You can only come to me once or twice with the same thing because
Yeah.
at that point, now it's become an addiction to what you
Mm,
get from people feeling bad for you.
mm, mm.
Like I
That's
need
victim.
sympathy to make sure
Mm,
people care about me. It's like that's not care. You know what care looks like? Jody, you've come to me with this for 3 times now, and I'm a little concerned. And what concerns me is I don't think anything's going to change for you. That's
mm.
care. In my
Yeah,
opinion, that's care.
yeah, yeah.
Not, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. No, you have to do something different for it to get better. It
Mm,
doesn't, I can't do anything for you to make it better.
mhm.
Besides, be here. I'll sit with you. That's what I can
Right,
do.
right.
Outside of that, the work is yours.
Yeah. So then when people are ready, when they have that moment like you had, and they come to you and they're ready to do the work. What's the process working with you in this?
Well, I'm certainly no counselor or therapist. Uh,
Okay.
my approach is how do I give people questions to go sit and do their work?
Hmm.
It's a really interesting question, Jody. I don't know if I have a process for them besides the willingness to seek the truth over protecting your comfort.
Hmm.
Um, and how do you get people to listen more to what they know to be true versus what would I prefer it to be?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
our preferences are the thing that cause us to suffer far more than anything else.
Hmm.
And so I'll share a story. I went up to my cabin Friday night, and I got up there and the heat was out. Everything's frozen.
Oh.
And I was on the drive home, and I was thinking, how do I shorten the gap between the event that took place that I really don't like and full acceptance of that event, not wishing it were different?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because if I can shorten the gap, I suffer less.
Mm.
The more I wish something was
Yeah.
different, it doesn't make it different. It
Hmm.
just puts tension inside to say I haven't fully accepted that this is
Mm.
actually what it is.
Yeah.
And trust me, I woke up Saturday and I was still kind of like, this sucks.
Yeah.
This is just shitty.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say I suffered and spiraled, which
Mm.
I would have been anxiety ridden 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you saying situations. I wish the situation were different. I think we do that with people too, don't we? I wish they were different. I wish he was different. I wish she was different.
How do we feel when somebody wishes we were different?
Yeah.
That's the question I ask. Stop looking at somebody else wishing they were different because if the same person was doing the same thing back to you, you'd get pissed.
Mm. Mm.
So this is like, why can't we allow people to be who they are and then either seek more time with them or seek less time with them?
Mm.
If
Mm.
they are the way they are, what's the benefit of trying to change them if you don't
Hmm.
like how they're being? I
Hmm.
don't, it's so self-serving to not allow somebody to be the real version of who they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
It's so selfish.
Right.
Why don't you remove yourself from that person then? If you
Mm.
don't like who they are,
Hmm.
it doesn't make them a bad person, by the way.
Right.
But it's okay not to like people.
Mm.
Not okay to be disrespectful, but it's okay not to like people. Like
Right. Right.
I don't want to like everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Contrast, right?
why is it a bad thing to not like certain people? It's just like they're
Mm.
human. I still love them.
Hmm.
I just don't want to hang out with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. So what are you doing, Jake? Is it coaching? Is it individual coaching? Is it teams? Is it speaking? What is it that you,
It's mainly speaking.
okay.
I've done the coaching thing and it doesn't, I don't, right now, that's not my path.
Okay.
Uh,
Hmm.
but, but I am branching. The goal is to branch out outside of real estate because this is a much broader conversation from a
Yep.
leadership perspective than just,
Hmm.
it's not even real estate related. It just
Right.
happened. I think it's highly entrepreneurial related
Hmm.
because that's what's required to build something significant, I think.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so and I'm happy to travel and train when I know it's the right thing.
Hmm.
And so it's really, really great, Jody, when you can get into a room and you can say to a group of people what you can't say one on one.
Hmm.
And so I think there's something special about a group atmosphere that allows people safety to reflect
Hmm.
rather than a one-on-one conversation where they feel attacked.
Okay. That's I was going to ask you the distinction. So you can
Like
generalize
I can
things.
ask those questions. Like if we were coaching one-on-one, I said, Jody, what problems are you creating that you're acting like a victim to? He'd be like, what's that for? But if
Mm.
I do that in a group setting, you
Hmm.
get different interaction from
Hmm.
people that actually allows them to be a little bit more open to explore their own stuff.
That's good. That makes perfect sense. So you're looking for, it's called lead inward trainings, and you're looking for opportunities to speak to groups, organizations. What's your ideal client?
The willingness to be challenged. I mean, if you don't want to take ownership for everything in your life, even if it's not your fault,
Mhm.
um, it might come off a little harsh.
Okay.
And I think that's okay.
Mhm.
There's no judgment with it, but I do think that's part of the, and you don't have to have all the answers, by the way, but if everything is everybody else's fault, this is not for you. It's just
Mhm.
it won't land well.
Mhm. Mhm. So at the end of your flyer, it says the purpose is to help people self-discover and then lead themselves effectively, regardless of industry or role. Leadership holds no title, and the only way to truly lead others effectively is to build our ability to lead ourselves. And so he has a Jake. I'm speaking to the audience now, not you, Jake. Jake has how is this different, and how attending an event where Jake is a speaker will give you something other than what you probably have heard before. Is about it's not about skills. Anyone can build skills. It's leading yourself in a way that allows you to master the skills that you need. So, Jake, if somebody's heard something today that they really need to talk to you about, how can they best reach you?
Social media is probably the easiest. It's just Jake Luehrs. Last name is Luehrs. My email is jakeL@KW. That's easy enough as well. But I mean, we connected on Facebook Messenger. It's all good. And I encourage people to follow what I write because it's more reflective than it is pointing the finger. I have no desire to point the finger at people unless they're completely just not willing to look inside. And
And then
so,
they wouldn't be your client anyway. They wouldn't be someone who
yeah,
would get anything from you.
no, and that could change in time.
Right.
And if for your readers, Jody, I can send you a link that allows people. I write a newsletter every Saturday, or I write it and it goes out every Saturday morning. Oh,
I
you
have
already,
it on.
oh, it's on
I
there.
have it on the QR code is here. If you're looking at the video here, I will make sure it's in the show notes as well, so that
Yeah. I
everybody
started
has that.
writing that actually in the darker moments.
Okay.
And so I think there's 730 that it's strictly organic. I never wanted to sign anybody up for it. If you're interested, you sign up. If you're not, and if you sign up and you don't like it, unsubscribe. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think there was over 20,000 reads last year alone.
Oh, great.
Um, and I typically get a couple of emails every single week just saying thank you. So
Nice.
I'm hopeful it's helpful.
Yeah. Well, that's all. The most we can do is the most we can do. I mean, the best we can do is the best we can do, right? So whatever it is that you listeners, Jake, Jody, feel called to from something greater, maybe higher than our own understanding of things, you were pointing to your head, pointing to your heart. I like to think about it, I call it line up the eyes, intellect, intuition, and instinct. If we can line up those eyes and use all three before we make decisions, I think we have a much better opportunity to make decisions that will help us and the world. If we use one over the other, sometimes we lose the possibilities that
And
exist
we're
for us.
going to use one over the other sometimes. Like
Yeah,
that's just part of it. Like
yeah.
part of the like I listen to this far more than I used to, but if I
That,
told a 22-year-old to listen to this,
your heart. He's
well,
pointing to his heart.
yeah, to my heart, I don't know if that's the best advice.
Yeah, yeah.
And so there's seasons where we can lean on one over the other
Mm-hmm,
in addition to others.
mm-hmm,
Now it's just like I can feel if something's not right because I
yeah,
paid attention enough. But
sure.
you would ask me 10 years ago, I don't know if I would have been able to do that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So there's a lot here, Jake. There's a lot that you've shared. I feel very grateful for the conversation today. And because even though we don't live in the same community, we live in the same region, we live very close to each other. I feel like we each can emanate, heart-led, um, energy that can attract to us the forces we wish to use in the cooperation of other people, to use Napoleon Hill's words. And there's so much opportunity when people come together in a spirit of harmony because it invites the mastermind, the best of both of us, into the conversation. We didn't plan this. We didn't plan this. I asked you if there's anything I couldn't ask you, and you said no. And it's about getting real. And to me, real means radical, energized, authentic, and learning focused. And those of you who have listened, you know that radical doesn't mean what the world has co-opted it to mean. It means getting back to the root. Radical, rad, means getting back to the root of what makes you you. And when we do that, it does feel radical because so few people are doing that kind of work, it seems. But those who are going to be connected with people like Jake. So, Jake, thank you so much for sharing.
My pleasure. I appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. And everybody, just go find a way to be real this week. If you can find anything you could do, pick one: radical, energized, authentic, learning focused. Read something, read Jake's newsletter. I'll make sure you get the opportunity to get it in the show notes. Thanks again, Jake.
You bet.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. That was so good. Stop recording. Oh, just
Okay, I was like, I don't know if I should talk
there we
now.
go. Yes. Okay.